Okay, I'm here with the legendary Mr. Billy Sheehan.
Wow, thanks.
It's quite hard to be legendary when you're only 28. I know, isn't
Wow.
it? Very difficult.
My shoes are older than 28.
Now, you're famous for doing solo performance on the organ, and
yes, an unaccompanied single note organ solo.
yeah, and you have a system that you've designed yourself.
Yeah.
Which you use for when you're doing some of the drill stuff and some of the other stuff.
Yeah, when I need when something's going on up high and we can't lose the bass, well, I generally use the foot pedal thingies for that. So it's just basically an organ tone turned down. It's very loud during the show.
Yeah.
And it's Green Tinted 60s mine. And so all that stuff, so we can have something going on underneath there. For other songs like Promise of the Moon, I'm not sure which patch it is. Oh, sorry. It's distorted now because it's through a Marshall.
Yes, yes.
And it was the easiest amp for us to get to have easily to use for the pedals. It's far from the ideal amp for it because you want a big beefy one, but it's also nice in case one of Paul's goes down, which I haven't at all. They've been great. The new Marshall stuff is fantastic. We got an extra, if somebody wants to come up and jam, we got an extra amp, so that helps out there.
Excellent, excellent. Okay.
Double duty. Double duty.
You've always got to be thinking one ahead.
Exactly.
Or two, I think, these days.
Or even three.
Possibly. Anyway, let's move on to the, that's the bit, and it basically triggers a little Roland synth, I believe.
Yeah, just a little, it's called a sonic cell. From Roland, and it's super lightweight and super small. It sounds great, and it's relatively easy to program. So I popped in a couple of B3 tones, octave up, octave down, a sub bass in there mixed in, so it's a lot of low end, and a little dirt on it too. So it sounds kind of, when we do Hold Your Head Up by the Zombies, pardon my back here.
Yeah.
So we play we don't play that tone, do we? Right. So we'll play, So it sounds a lot of people are noticing this is a B3 in the middle of the song, even though it's a B3 song to start with. So, so we get a little bit of that tone in there. It's kind of cool.
Is that the song Hold Your Head Up High? Isn't that by Argent?
Oh, you're right. I meant Argent.
All right.
But wasn't Rod Argent in the Zombies?
Yes, he was.
That's my error.
And mine, believe it or not. Right, we're going to move over to the amplifiers now.
Pierce preamp, Ashley compression. This is a ISP decimator noise gate, fantastic noise gate, and just a little tuner in there for the hell of it. And basically, I'm running into the Pierce, into SVT4 Pro.
Yeah, you've used Ampex forever, basically, haven't you, more or less?
Since about 71 or 72, I got my first Ampeg, my first SVT years and years and years ago, and for a while they were out of business, so I used something else. When they went back in business, I started using them again. And typical 810 cabinet. Remember the first time I plugged into an SVT years ago, prior to that, I was using a Fender Super Bassman, which was a 100-watt head and two 15s. And I got two cabinets, too, so I had four 15s. And I thought that was loud as could be. Plugged the SVT in, and it was 15 times louder.
Radically different EQ, I noticed on the...
Yeah, because one is high and one is low. So the low end has the low end boosted up. The highs roll up a bit. And the high one, also there's a crossover built in.
Right.
So below 300 cycles or so is trimmed off. We also trim it off here because the distortion and the clean tones of a bass, when they got a lot of low end at the same time, you get that it will be very muffled.
Yeah.
So what we do with the split pickup is the cleans come out of one amp and all the lows come out of another.
Right, gotcha.
So it's kind of like the same reason why in a stereo you'll see a woofer and a tweeter. So once you start dividing those frequencies up, it's a lot easier for a transducer to do a limited amount of frequency range.
Right.
It works much less hard. Because when a transducer is moving slowly for the bass and it's also got to move very fast for the highs, that's a lot of work for it to do. So to split it up.
You're playing a lot of bass lines like a bass player would, but you're also playing a lot more kind of some lead stuff as well in between.
Exactly, and this helps because normally when you play up high you lose all your low end. With this system you don't. You still got a lot of low end going on underneath it.
So you're still going through the bass end, whichever way it goes.
The bass amp is still going on. And on the bass there's the this neck position pickup, which is basically, originally was a Gibson EBO pickup. It's now a DiMarzio Model 1. And this P-bass style is also a DiMarzio Willpower. So with the two outputs from the bass, you basically get two basses. You get a P bass and a Gibson bass. In the old days, that Gibson tone, that tone you get from like Glenn Cornick got it from Jethro Tull, Paul Samuel Smith. The McCartney neck position, like you use in the song Rain, a super deep low end, that's a similar tone to that as well. So, and I even found out that Mel Shacker from Grand Funk Railroad put an EBO pickup, I got a photo of him playing it on his jazz bass years ago. Brilliant. So there's a precedent to it, to some degree. And also, a lot of the early Olympic basses, they were all split, so each pickup had its own output. Right. Rickenbacker has the Rico sound. So it's not a new idea. It's just a sideways evolution of it from to a different point.
And it sounds like a silly question, but where's your wife?
She's in Milan. No. Oh, you mean my bass?
Yeah.
Well, see, now I'm married. My wife has a whole new meaning.
All right.
So I guess no, she's in the closet at home.
Right.
You know, in the case.
Does she ever?
Sure. I bring her out once in a while. I had some friends stop by. They visited LA, and they were all, we had a question. Can we see it? So we brought it out. Took a look at it. But it's beat. The body's cracked. It's. I wouldn't want to take it out, and I'll never get rid of it. It's my first bass. But this is basically modeled after it. Not to make it a Yamaha commercial, but it's really true. It's the neck is. If you feel the neck, it's a big fat. It's from a '68 Telly neck.
Nice, and it's not too glossy. It's
on this version we went with satin finish. Yeah. And the body shape is very similar, but you can get the cutaways all the way up to the top fret. Plus, you also get the top high E note.